Well, it's been a quiet week here in Lake Scabagon, my hometown. This week, the Squids welcome a new resident in town, Pete's brother-in-law and fellow parking lot whiskey member, Josh. They talk about drinking, discuss accidentally sending a listener off course, MuteMath, and more in part 1 of the 6-hour Zoom call.
Tammy's still listening, guys. So that surprises me each and every time.
You got to give her thanks for that. That's not expected. And yet,
I know it's
appreciated.
It's surprising every single episode that she listens to.
Yeah,
she tells me her thoughts on it, and she told me she was going to start taking notes. And I was like, "Are you going to start a podcast about our podcast?" And she said no. She was just going to give me the notes to deliver. Okay. And I told her, "No, you can call the Squid line.
Call it
thoughts. I will not be your message boy." She said no to mustache in the spring, so I have months to weigh in to make my decision on who I will align with.
So I think what you do is right before we record actually, hold on. What day is Cinco de Mustache?
Hey Google.
Yes, hey, Google. Please keep doing that.
When
South Carolina,
the mustache,
Rhode Island.
Oh, it's on a Monday.
812 Wharf Avenue.
It's on a Monday, so maybe we record on a Monday that week.
Hey Google,
take me to North Carolina. Right before we record, you shave to the mustache.
The big reveal.
So record the podcast with the mustache. As soon as it's over, then you can go shave it off so that she doesn't get mad.
There you go.
Or keep it and see how long I can push that on for.
Yes.
Hey Google, take me to Supercuts.
Hey Siri.
Little squeezers straight there. I need a pizza.
Hey Google, how many Rhode Islands fit in a Supercuts?
I did see a Jets Pizza last week in Michigan, but did not eat there because I was with other people, and so you follow the group wishes.
Yeah.
But I did see one that I know Joe has talked about. It was right by the hotel.
Jared and the Jets. There it is.
Yeah, I see it.
There you go. Just another for our regular listeners. Congratulations.
On Sunday, Ert did ask, he's like, you'll have to tell me when you're podcasting so I can just randomly send Pete a picture of the socks. Which Adam told me he got all caught up on. He listened on Sunday to all of it. He's been listening. John is listening. Ert is listening.
Josh is listening. I mean,
Josh is listening.
Everybody's listening. I'm loving this. Yeah.
Both ears, 1 ear, I don't care.
I don't care. Look, you just won't hear me if you have it in one ear. But other than that,
we'll easily take one-eared listeners.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate.
Well, you know what we are? We're accessible. For those listeners that only can hear well in one ear, we've got something special just for them that everyone else doesn't get to experience.
One-eyed,
that's true.
One-horn, blind, purple people leader. One-eyed.
So, Josh, are you caught up on the Pickle and Boot Shop? Are you a listener to the Pickle and Boot Shop? Yeah, you do. You are.
I do listen.
Good. That's what we talk about here.
I have so many things to do and so little time lately but the last few weeks I have definitely been catching up.
Beautiful.
Sweet.
Nice.
You didn't want to start a podcast just to talk about the Pickle and Boot Shop with your time? I hear people do that now.
So I was trying to explain that to my wife right before I came on, and she was like, wait a minute. What?
So there's this podcast, and there's this other podcast that's about that first podcast. It's great.
She's like,
and then there will eventually be a book club about that second podcast.
Yes. Left ear only, though. Book club's in the left ear.
Like, I'm really wondering why my sister married that guy that's on the podcast.
That's right.
The book club's in the left ear. Yeah.
She also doesn't love ska or 5-iron.
Don't know what to tell you. There's not much that can be done for that. Yeah.
Look,
not everyone's willing to subject themselves to all that. I hear listening to this
podcast will help.
My wife has been converted in the last week and a half.
Oh my gosh.
We have been together in a relationship of some form romantically for 22 years. And for 99.9% of those 22 years, she did not want to listen to 5-Iron Frenzy or anything I was interested in, really. And then now she's on board. She's been listening to it on her own. Yep. She likes it. She's asking me questions about it. So, yeah, If you get your wife
Yep.
to listen to you on this podcast, everything's might change.
Just
So
hold
whose
on.
pants were they?
Right?
Yeah.
This must be solved.
Questions that haven't yet been answered.
You're welcome, Pete.
Yeah.
I just
Brad's
I'm
dead.
converting the
What?
children.
Oh man,
I'm
those
converting the
kids.
children. So they're
Those kids
3
are
and
wild.
5, and when a 3-year-old girl wants fiber, and then you can't say no.
That's right.
I'm so proud. Proud uncle moment right here.
Good
You're
job.
doing the work. Thank you.
And to watch them dance to it is amazing. They're just go nuts. It's awesome.
Yeah, should we start this?
Yeah.
Yeah, why the hell not?
Hey, we record some great low light stuff, Josh. So this has not gone in vain.
Pete, you got a message on the socials.
Did we start this podcast?
Are we starting?
Do we ever?
If you want to.
Oh, fine. Well, happy Failure Puddle Friday, everybody. We are back, and we are going to discuss episode 146 of the Pickle and Boot Shop. But before we do that, I feel we should introduce our special guest. So everybody say hello to Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hey,
Welcome.
What's up?
the roof.
It's on fire.
That's a
roof,
really lame response.
the roof.
I'm
The
sorry.
roof is on fire. We don't need
no water.
line. Those mother father pickle burn. Burn, mother
That's
father
it.
pickle. Burn.
That's it.
Burn.
I'm just looking at the map that Jared just shared. And yes, you cannot have a kangaroo in my state. You can without a permit in West Virginia. So
Seems right.
somewhat near the Adirondacks, right?
Similar lifestyle.
Somewhat near the Adirondacks. That's quite a few hours away.
And Wisconsin, so Missy could have a kangaroo.
Okay. Got to ask
So
her
we
if she
should
does.
ask her why she doesn't.
Right.
Mm.
Because there's nothing legally stopping her. It's
She
just her
probably
own will.
does.
Yeah. I actually have a friend in South Carolina that owns a kangaroo. So no permit needed. I didn't know that part.
Is that right? Does is it Noel, part of our Pickle and Boot Shop group? Does he own a kangaroo?
He seems like the kangaroo expert in the Pickle and Boot Shop.
It seems like he would have one already. Yeah. Has he ever been to Adirondack State Park?
Inside of a kangaroo pouch.
That's where maybe he snuck in.
Yeah.
You never know.
I've got the Facebook pulled up over here on this, my other screen, just in case we ever dive into the diabolical discussion page. So it just popped up where Kevin asked Missy if she or any of her friends have a pet kangaroo.
There we go. It's worth asking. It's worth knowing.
Because it's legal, so you should.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. I also
Everybody
have heard
has a water buffalo.
Mm.
I also have heard from Ert.
I got a
What's he
text about
say?
that too.
What does he say?
And he says a relaxing evening. I don't think you can see that, but it's that
Oh, okay.
In front of the fireplace?
He's wearing his
Fireplace.
socks. Yeah.
wearing a Stretch Armstrong socks. Thanks so much, Ert.
perfect.
Thank you.
Just
These
to
sock
taunt
pictures
you.
are getting intimate.
I know. I mean, at least pour me some wine first. Gee.
Speaking of alcohol, you should visit Ert's house if you would like to see the most extensive whiskey, tequila, and craft beer selection you've
Really?
probably seen in a private collection. Yeah, he's an extensive collector.
I was just going to say, I can imagine that anybody would not be caught up on our podcast. But if they're not, Josh, how are you connected to the rest of us? How do we know you?
That's a good question. So at one point in
It's like,
time,
I don't know. I just ended up here.
I wish I knew.
I walked into a room and ran into Pete.
That is correct. That is what happened. That is how we
There we
how
go.
we met.
So Pete and I married sisters. They are very different sisters.
Yes, they are. And that's all we'll say about that.
Seems prudent.
So
responsible.
yeah, so Pete and I are brother-in-laws, and then obviously I went to Furnace Fest last year and met Kevin and Daniel Rock at Furnace Fest, and then went to Furnace Fest again this year, and this guy with a mustache came in while I was falling asleep.
Who'd you
I was
meet?
like, who is this guy? And then he was like the most famous person at Furnace Fest. So
How much
Kind
noise
of
did he
you.
make with bringing all his vinyl into the hotel room late? at
Oh, it
night?
was horrible.
Did he wake you
A lot
up
of it.
just banging it around?
No, because I was competing with the vinyl this year, so
Right. He had probably as many crates as I did.
Oh,
It really made our hotel room that much better.
Oh no.
Oh no, we have another special guest.
No, you kind of froze.
Tammy's lurking right over there.
Oh, sure.
Hi, Tammy.
She doesn't want me to tell you that, but I just told you.
What's up, Tammy?
They say hi.
You better check the squid line.
Oh, I'm on it.
Oh boy.
We got messages.
Now we
I'm
can-
on
Did you guys hear
Hold
that?
on.
Is that picking up? Very nice.
You better check the squid line.
This is an interactive live podcast now.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I'm glad to have met you. I think
I know. Tammy, we're trying to learn about my brother-in-law, please. All right.
Can I pick my?
Josh, hold on.
Ready to give her- she can't hear anything. She
Can
just
you pick
is
your ear?
speaking to us.
left or right, which one should you get?
Can I?
Oh, she's
oh,
low.
yeah. By the way, that worked really well on
Oh,
your last
sweet.
podcast.
Oh,
I was impressed.
Nice.
It actually worked. When y'all said it, I was like, "That's not going to work. It's not a but it worked."
You doubted us?
I have one complaint though.
We do
Oh, yeah,
nothing
go
but
ahead.
tell the truth.
Okay, I know.
If you'd like to
we're
hear
all-
Carmen, pan left. If you'd like to hear voicemails, pan right.
righteous invasion of truth.
you want to
Go life.
That's yours,
As
man.
you
There
were.
it is.
Yep.
So, your complaint.
My complaint. Okay, I know we're all millennials. I get that.
I'm on the
Right?
line with Gen
I'm on the
X
line
and
too. Speak
millennials,
for yourself.
yeah.
But all
Well,
right.
okay, this still applies though. Gen X to
I'm a millennial.
millennial. And I know that we all grew up with phones that had cords on them,
Oh,
landlines
Mhm.
that
Yep.
you would, you know,
Okay, yes.
when the commercials came on, 1-800 da da da.
I know where this is going.
Listen,
Hmm.
okay, 98528 squid. I get
Yep.
it. But you know how hard it is to go on your cell phone and remember and look at the letters, which we haven't done in like 20 years,
Hey,
and
bring it
figure
back.
out how to spell out squid. My only complaint.
Didn't
Not to
even
mention
consider-
on the rotary dial, like that's even
Oh,
harder.
yeah. Yep.
Like
We're-
at my grandma's house, she definitely had a rotary.
We're losing our younger audience
Yeah,
who can't
so-
spell on a phone.
I'm just saying, you might want to reconsider.
There's no autocorrect. What do I do?
Can we lock down the social media handles that way? If we get like Twitter and Instagram and all that at 98528 squid.
Oh,
Yes.
let's just get a 3-digit number. Gee.
It's just a little difficult for me, but you know, I get it.
Thanks for your dedication. And,
I tried to remember what the actual number was, but I kept screwing it up. So I just keep going with the 28 squid. Let me see if I can do it. 2877843, I believe.
Got it.
You've memorized our number?
Well, I just texted.
I don't know
I just,
any
I
phone
just
numbers.
texted Squid Line, so now
Oh.
you can go check.
Okay.
All right, as you were.
If you'd like
All
to
right.
bring more bourbon.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
The cross of Calvary. It's done.
Is that her outro music?
Carmen's still with us, even at beyond the grave. We can't.
I mean, this
The
is
Apple,
like,
you know, when
what
you
is
put
this?
when you put the AirPod back in, it starts playing again. Sorry, Pete. For those of us who use Apple products,
Anytime somebody enters the chat.
yes, from now on, there's intro music like a baseball game.
All right, back to Josh.
Yeah, we cut you off, or my wife cut you off. I'm sorry. I apologize for
that was all
of the
Tammy.
Breeze household and North
No
Carolina
problem.
collectively.
What was I saying? I don't know. if
You
I
were
was
at
saying
Furnace
anything.
Fest. Brock woke you up in the middle of the night with his vinyl.
That's right. And then I didn't tell Brock this, but in the morning, I put these glasses on and I was like, I can see, but these feel different. They were not my glasses.
Whose glasses were they, anyways?
Yeah. Did you tell him in 6 different genres?
Were they Kevin's or Pete's or Jared's?
So I was thinking we should write an album about it. But anyway,
Kevin, do you have glasses? Can you see
I do
like
not.
on your own?
I see
Oh.
on my own.
I'm wearing contacts, so
Lucky you.
A lot of us, yeah, can't relate.
I am the
my
lone
glasses.
holdout in my family.
Don't know whose they are.
mm,
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a very special sleeping arrangement, which you guys, I'm sure, have discussed already. But
That's all right. We love to hear it from your perspective.
We've already earned our E rating, so you can go ahead and explain more.
well, when we before we got to Furnace Fest this year, Pete had his inflatable mattress, and we had it like stuffed in our Nashville hotel, like appropriately under this desk or something, and it was working great.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I woke myself up.
Yeah.
You should have just cuddled in that double bed. That'd been fine.
But when we were in Birmingham, it was almost like all the beds were connected, but on different
Yeah.
levels of height. So
Very
Roll
cozy.
from one to the next.
You probably could have, honestly.
Of a terraced situation, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. We had our own bedrooms.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks so much for inviting us over. Yeah.
we had the more intimate experience. So
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
true. So you win.
That's true.
A very
Connected
steamy
closely.
experience.
Steamy.
it was steamy.
So
It was
steamy.
very steamy.
This podcast is getting steamy.
Oh, hey, all right.
So, anyways, we all have a text group called Parking Lot Whiskey because Josh doesn't make this podcast on the regular, but we like talking to Josh, and so because of that, we have a text group, and it's called Parking Lot Whiskey because we all drank whiskey in a parking lot with Reese Roper.
That's right.
Did.
And with Leonore. I mean, we honestly, anybody who wants to drink parking lot whiskey with us is welcome to. That window has closed for now, but yes,
Until Insider's Con.
Yeah,
that's right. Insider's Con. Next chance we get.
Yep.
Somehow I brought like the world's biggest cooler, and we didn't put the whiskey in it.
I know. It was.
You served Reese Roper hot whiskey.
Hey! If anybody's gonna get hot whiskey, it's gonna be Reese Roper, so it's really okay.
Again, I don't see it as off-putting.
I had to load that cooler up before we left New York, so it was like the tail end of the ice. And then that night we went to Buc-ee's, and I bought, was it 40 pounds of ice?
40 pounds of
40
ice.
pounds of
Yeah.
ice.
Only for $4. It was only $4.
Yeah.
Buc-ee's just
Yeah.
a fantastic place.
And then I dumped like all this water all over the parking lot and spent 20 minutes to repack the cooler, and everyone thought I was a little crazy, but we had cold beverages the next day.
No,
I didn't think you were crazy. I thought you were judicious with your
Yeah.
use of space.
and the payoff for Leonore to have ice was where it was at.
Yeah.
Ice,
That was the
baby.
important one. Yeah.
Too cold.
Bum 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 bum.
Who got that Goldilocks just right whiskey then? Reese got too hot. Leonore got too cold. Who got the just right in the middle? Oh, there we go. Ert.
That's why you're getting those sexy sock pictures.
I know, man.
It could mean so many things. By the way, Missy let us know that you can't have any non-domesticated animals in the city limits of Milwaukee. But then she remembered
Okay.
she doesn't live in the city limits of Milwaukee. So it doesn't apply to her.
Okay. So I've got a crate that says this end up on her way to her house.
You took care of that, huh?
So, Pete, did you want to read that message that we got from Anna?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm just putting Ert's feet picture up in the pickle and boots. Just give me 1
Honestly,
sec.
the people demand it. I think if we don't see Art's feet in those
no, we got to
socks,
save that for our Patreon.
Yeah, that's the pay content
True.
there, Pete.
True.
You don't give out feet pics for
dang
free.
it. All right.
Oh.
All right. I'm sorry.
only
I'm
cons for that
sorry.
one. Yeah.
All right. All right. You caught it just in time. I didn't
We're
put
never
that
going to
there.
get
All right.
rich
So
off this podcast if you give everything away for free.
once that OC Supertones money comes in, we're going to be good. All right.
Yep.
So we did just get a Instagram message from Anna in the old diabolical discussion. She's a listener here, and so last week when we were talking about the GPS, she writes, "I have a bone to pick with you guys. I was listening while on a 2-hour road trip, and thanks to all the 'Hey Google' comments, somehow South Carolina somehow got added into my GPS. Thankfully, when I realized it, I'd only gone 5 miles out of my way. That could have been bad."
I want to apologize that we directed her to South Carolina because if she was going to be misdirected, it should have been to North Carolina, obviously.
Well, if she went to North Carolina, she wouldn't have been misdirected, would she?
No, she'd been right where she belonged. That's the right
No, but
destination.
not where she planned to go. I guess that's the thing, right? Either way,
Right.
it's not what she intended. So
Do
sorry.
any of us even know where she is? Where was that? Where was she going from to that turned her in the direction of South Carolina?
She's in the in the Virginia area. She was let's see.
I was going to say that's a red state on the map that Jared sent us, meaning that she cannot own a kangaroo.
Oh, dang.
Without a permit.
Yeah, she was traveling towards Lynchburg is where she was heading. So, but she went out of the way, almost on her way to South Carolina. So our apologies. But hey, Google, take me to California.
Yeah.
So do you think it's a little absurd that Google would just take South Carolina, the state, as a direction and start guiding you there without asking a follow-up question of like, do you have a specific location in the state of South Carolina?
Just to South Carolina.
It's roughly the size of Austria. So
when you get closer, you will know, right? You'll have an idea of like, well, which part do I want to go to? But now that I'm only just 2 or 3 states away.
Do you want to go to Travelers Rest? Do you want to go to Due West, South Carolina? Do you want to go to Myrtle Beach? I mean, there's a lot of places in South Carolina. Greenville.
Travelers Rest sounds great.
Do you want to go to Pickens?
Pickens? You know about Pickens, huh?
I love Pickens.
Do you want to go to Clinton, South Carolina? There's not
I'd
much there.
I'd rather go to Pickens.
I think you're right. Columbia.
Maybe Clemson.
Mm.
Side note. So, first of all, sorry, Anna. Sorry we sent you on a different direction, but
and we'll make it up to you. We will try and get Siri to go off on people's phones in a later episode.
And also, I think it would be efficient if she will text the Squid line her destinations from now on.
Yes.
And we will record a podcast and publish it. And we will say, hey, Google, send Anna to wherever she wants to go. And this seems like the best way for her to get where she's going from now on. The system she's using currently now does not work.
Actually, why don't we could try this? Hey, Alexa, subscribe to A Pickle Home Companion on Amazon, something, I don't know, wherever the hell podcasts are.
Downloading wherever the hell at.
The cloud. That's where they are.
Hey, Google, take me to the Publix in Lakeland, Florida.
Hey, Google, let's go to Top Golf.
Hey,
any of them.
Speaking of, hey, should I? That horrible segue, but here we go. Should I open this?
Yes.
Yes.
The answer is always yes.
Okay,
yes,
sounds
definitely.
good. I'll open it and I'll do a taste. But go ahead, continue.
Are you going to say what it is?
Are you going to
for
say
our
what
right
it
ear
is,
listeners?
No, I'm not, because I want people to guess what it is. I could be drinking pickle juice for all you know.
That's
What
right.
the
Well, he probably
mother
is.
pickles.
Yep.
If you subscribe to our top Patreon tier that is yet to be invented, we will send you the video so you can know.
94828 squid? No.
There was like a 7443 involved or something.
Hey, but first
Did
you're
I catch a niner in there?
You're gonna get those. First, you're gonna get those sweet feet pics. But you know that's
yeah. That's the title sponsor level.
Oh man,
you want to own this podcast?
And it's just him in socks. The 3 Chord Bourbon Backstage Series, this year's Furnace Fest edition. I'll put it up in the social medias. And it's this year's straight bourbon whiskey out of the good folks at 3 Chord. 116.8 proof. Oh, I'm unstable in my internet connection. Can you hear me?
That's a stable recommendation right there.
Yeah.
Yep, 116.8 proof on this whiskey. I'm glad I read that. So that means I'm just gonna have to have a half knuckle. But
did you have it at Furnace Fest?
I did not yet. Is it good?
Yeah,
I had a couple of the old fashions. They were great.
I did have some at Furnace Fest.
All right, you went.
Let's see.
You went with the old fashioned. I just went straight bourbon because I'm a simple man.
Okay, hold on. Ready?
There we go.
That was one of your best corn pops.
That was all right. So we're gonna do a little ASMR. Pouring.
In the Graceland glass, right? So
in the Graceland glass, yep. And I did wash it out with water, so it does not have the Woodford Reserve mixture there. Right there it is.
Do you get notes of and this is your last fucking chance?
It is. That's right on the front of the tongue. I get that. It's your last fucking chance. Oh, there's a little aftertaste of tears and regret. Let's see.
Little
And
body
someone
odor.
hitting someone else in the ball 2 years ago.
2 year ago.
2 year
That's
ago.
a good 2 year blend. Oh, there's celebrity right there. I have a right on the back of the tongue, a little Brock Dennis. That's really good.
I'm honored. Glad to be there.
That's
The Brock
great.
Dennis showed up in defensive ska, featured the Brock Dennis. I think we should recognize that right now and applaud him.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I just wanted to shout out the book. Second edition is out with some parts dedicated to Five Iron Frenzy.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. It's going to make me have to buy the second edition. I own the first edition and I read it, but now,
Yeah. That's how they get you. But
Yes.
there's also the fact that I was wearing a Smash Mouth t-shirt when I held it up. I think that kind of tickled Aaron. And so that was part of why he reposted it.
But Josh,
Yes, I'm here.
you had some thoughts on MuteMath you wanted to share with us.
Ooh, yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
do.
Join Pete and Brock's MuteMath Corner.
Welcome,
On the right
welcome
channel.
once again to another edition
Yeah.
of Brock
Me and Kevin will
Pete
be in the
I'll be
left
on the
here.
left channel. Yeah.
MuteMath Corner. Go ahead, Josh.
So I just
Before I
started this Juicy Jack Juicy IPA.
I'm drinking some Wild Turkey 101.
So Josh is not ready for the left and right ear. Let's record those separately.
Probably hasn't even
So-
listened to that episode, so he's very confused.
Before I say what my piece on Mute Math, I was just gonna say, I just realized as you were playing Carmen again that I started talking to Darren King about Carmen of all things when he hung out with us.
Really? What did you say to Darren King?
Say
about
more,
Carmen?
please.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite artists is
Carmen, yeah.
Nashville based, and I found out about them because I traded a Carmen CD for them when I was like 14. Common Children.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I know that a couple of the guys who are in Hammock now, like they're connected with Yonzi from Sigur Rós, I believe. I've done some things with them. So I was like, I was like looking around to see if they were in the crowd, and then I was like trying to explain, like, so I had this Carmen Riot CD that I traded, and it like set me on this music career, and I was like, sounds all wrong. But anyway,
Sounds right.
Mute Math.
That's the thing. It does sound wrong. And if you had a good condition Carmen Riot CD, you could trade that in for whatever else you wanted, which includes Common Children.
That's right. Yeah.
That's an upgrade. That
It
is a
is.
good trade there.
Yeah.
It is.
So, side tangent before you get into MuteMath Corner. A few weeks ago, I
Hand
did
to your
one of
left
those.
ear.
Yes, come join me and Kevin in the left ear as we talk about other things. But I posted one of those, on Instagram stories where it's like first concert, best concert, whatever, like, and then you fill in your blanks for your own self. So it was like first concert. My first concert was Carmen when I was like 8 years old. One of those arena things, free admission and just packed place. And I went to several of those throughout the years. And the response I got from a DM to that story that made me really excited was from Joe Mustin, screamer and drummer from Beloved and Advent, who said his first concert was also Carmen. And we shared that moment on Instagram, and it made me very happy because I really like
That's
Joe
cool.
Mustin and Beloved. So, yeah, I think that's a lot of people's experience because of the free admission. It made it a really easy, church group trip because you didn't have to pay to go. You just had to get in the
It's
van
true.
and show
It's
up.
true. And church moms didn't have a problem with Carmen CDs
No.
showing up in their house.
And I'll say, Joe, if you want to come on the podcast, we can talk about Carmen. I will talk about Carmen on that podcast because you're on it. Otherwise,
So
I'm not that
you
interested.
know that Ert and Joe live in the same town. So Kernersville, North Carolina.
He's got a tattoo shop, doesn't he?
He works in the tattoo shop, or has in the past. Now he's a pastor full time at a church there,
okay.
an Assembly of God church. But the Beloved is from Kernersville, North Carolina, which is where Ert currently lives. And so he sees Joe and some of the other guys like routinely just around town.
That's cool.
And Joe briefly worked for a landscaping company and that Ert had used with his home that he didn't even know. That's our hero. And for some reason, he's in your yard. I don't know why. But anyway, I diverged from the MuteMath Corner. I apologize. Return to your scheduled programming.
I'm going to go back to Common Children for a second because what I didn't have time to explain to Darren, and I probably didn't have the like energy or like brain cells in the moment to explain this or even think about it. But really, it was that Common Children album that I got that set me on the path of listening to stuff that was more artistic than listening to punk and hardcore and ska. So, like, that would have led me to listening to MuteMath down the road. So, come full circle. So, the thing I wanted to say about MuteMath and what makes them really special is I think that they have like live particular that had an intensity level that was really unmatched and like maybe at the level of like going to see like some of these hardcore bands at their best, like seeing Zayo last year and The Shed. Like every Mute Math show was that level of intensity, but in a different way. And including like I went to see them on the Vitals tour, which is like all really soft, chill pop songs. And I took my wife and I was blown away that Paul Meany could just like carry the energy from song to song with the songs being so like laid back and soft. Like there was still this like passion and energy that carried the whole set. As a musician who's played in like all different kinds of genres, I was just like you could feel the passion in the music and it's in all their albums but in different genres. So and that's going to like Darren or it's not duct tape, but we always called him duct taping his headphones. It was really the gaffer's tape, but like yeah. And then didn't he have like the boxing gloves and like he had boxing gloves and he had like some kind of like electronic triggers that he would come out and like punch in the middle of the set. And like one of my old bandmates told me like the reason that he and a whole bunch of other people got into Mute Math is they were on the Ernie Ball stage at Warped Tour one year before anyone really knew who they were, and like all the other bands that played would come watch them because of how incredible they were. Like they were just over the top amazing.
That's cool. I didn't know they played Warped Tour.
Oh yeah.
I didn't either.
It's like a band that should have lasted for many years. Like just they had so much amazing potential that they squeezed into that short amount of time.
How long were they active?
I guess it was what, about 10 years or so? Maybe 15.
Maybe.
Because 2004 was the EP before they kind of had the major market breakthrough. And then 2019 was the very last shows, I think. Yeah. Or was it 18? So yeah, less than 15 years. I do appreciate that. That's a good point, Josh, that the intensity does match that, like the performance intensity. I think that's the thing that you don't always get with softer music, but they were not necessarily a hard band, but the shows went hard. I think it sounds like that's what you're describing, and I think you're right. It was definitely an experience where like you feel every note of that show.
And then of course when they come out with the inflatable mattress all lit up and like crowd surf the whole crowd, like the whole crowd on an inflatable lit up mattress singing their hearts out. It was crazy.
Was that like the lead singer? I
really the lead singer
about Mute Math, so you can't get into too much detail.
Oh yeah, the lead singer would do it. I mean, one time Darren got on it, but mainly it was Paul.
Yeah.
So how many times have Brock you've seen them live too?
Several times, yeah. Mostly in the earlier
eras. How many times
have
you guys done it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was probably like what? I saw them at least 6 times.
I've only seen them once or twice, and I was going to see them the night before my wedding rehearsal, but it probably would have ended the marriage before it happened.
You gotta choose. You gotta take sides.
You made a smart call. I would have gone with you, but you made a smart call.
Have you seen them, Kevin?
I've not.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I got to see them at Soul Fest back in the day. They played 2 sets there.
What years did they play?
Gosh, it was early 2000s. I want to say. Let me. Hey Google.
So, were they a Christian band? Like, I really don't know much about MuteMath.
Yeah, they started out in the Christian industry because before they were MuteMath, they were Earthsuit, and if you add the Earthsuit years, then you've got a good 20 years in the industry, I think. Earthsuit. So you've seen members of MuteMath performing. And yeah, a couple of members
Two,
changed, and certainly the
2005.
sound. Yeah.
Oh, wait. So MuteMath played the same year that Mustard played.
That you probably played against each other. Yeah, that's why you didn't see them.
Competing.
Yeah.
I was probably stuck working at the merch table.
Yeah, they played 2005. Yeah, but you're
You
right.
were saving
Earthsuit
people
played.
from porta potties. That's what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what happened was that they were basically trying to escape the Christian industry. In a lot of ways, they didn't
Okay.
want to kind of be marketed as a Christian band. They wanted a shot at the regular industry,
Right.
just kind of general market. And their EP, I think, was released on, was it Sparrow or Word?
Yes, I
That
believe
was
so.
definitely not necessarily what they were going for. I think they may have sued the label because they were under the impression that they were going to be marketed and distributed differently. And so, I think for a long time, they were trying to get out from underneath that. And, there were times where, like, for example, Paul, I think was fairly vocal. It wasn't like his main message, but he was like kind of upfront with the fact that he was no longer into Christianity. And it's interesting now that, like, it seems like he's kind of come full circle. His newest music and his newest messaging has kind of been that he's kind of back on the Christianity wagon. And so it's interesting to watch that voyage out, kind of like on an inflated air mattress out over the crowd.
That's right.
Out away from the church and then back
That's
into
right.
it or something.
Yeah, I mean,
and
that initial label was Word, and it was originally Word, and then Teleprompt is where what they had the self-titled on before it went to Warner Brothers.
Right, they had to create their own label. Go ahead, Josh.
I've also really always been into bands that are real and authentic about their faith journey. That, like, some of them are holding on, but they have questions and they're just trying to figure it out, but being real about it. Like, something about the authenticity I really appreciate. And as someone who, like, walked away from faith and came back to faith and have been throughout different parts of my journey, like, even the people who don't still believe, like, I really appreciate the authenticity. Like, so Thrice is like that for me a lot. Like, some of their newest albums, I'm like, okay, I'm not with you anymore, but, like, I still appreciate what you're doing.
I think there's different kinds of music consumers. And like, I think it's those who prioritize truth, the authenticity, or whatever we want to, like, terms that are loaded or whatever, but those who want to feel a certain thing from the artist, and those who prefer performance, and, like, they just want an experience that's, like, unrelated to the individual, maybe, if that makes sense. Which I would, like, if we want to broadly categorize it, like pop music.
Taylor Swift.
Well, I think she tells the truth. She just happens to be super popular while she does it. But I think, like, the people that have a
I just want to say Taylor Swift.
It's me.
To try to get our numbers up. I'm with you.
I'm the problem. It's me.
But, like, I think there's different types of musicians that perform songs that were co-written by a group in a room, and, like,
right.
It's just a pop radio hit, and they're not really attached to the music, to the lyrics or anything, versus those who are saying something that matters to them. And I think, like, there's different music consumers, because I feel like my wife and I, that's always been one difference. If she wants a really, like, on pitch vocal, and some of the things that I listen to that she doesn't like, she's like, their vocal's not good, and I was like, but that's not the point. From my perspective, who cares?
Yeah.
It's how it comes across and how the overall feeling is of it. And so the vocal hitting every note is not as critical of, like, so one divide we always had was, like, Dashboard Confessional. She doesn't like Chris Carrabba's voice. It's nasally. It's whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but are you listening to what he's saying and communicate? Are you feeling that? And I don't care if he's on pitch or, like, there's all the band, like Mineral or whatever, like, not a great vocal, but I love it. And then I think there's people that prioritize that part of it, of, like, it feels like they're being honest, and even to the parts that are uncomfortable for them, and I wouldn't necessarily want to display for myself in a public way and record it and distribute it, versus people who are like, no, I just want to have a good time. I want music to feel a certain way that's unrelated to that. And so I'm with you. I like the truth.
Where we're at with, like, music too, it's like almost like, I feel like now we're almost like begging for a return, kind of like when grunge came out, where it was like everything was so overproduced, and we lost a sense of feeling, and then like grunge came out and it brought feeling back. And there's not a lot of bands doing that anymore outside of like, I don't know, hardcore and some of the heavy
Yeah,
music.
that's what I was just gonna say. Like that's one thing I love about hardcore is it's the feelings and the emotion are like primary, you know? So
Mhm.
it's and especially, you know, I mean, we've said it, I don't know how many podcasts now, like the live experience of a hardcore show, it you know, you can't capture that in the studio, but you go see a band live and it's just everybody's there and it's like a collective, you know, you're part of the experience.
You want to feel the room versus I don't need a choreographed dance routine, video screens, and pyrotechnics or back, like I don't need a
Yeah.
show in the sense of like I'm a consumer of what is being presented on stage, which is fine. It's just not what I like. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with it. I'm not like putting a judgment or a value on it. It's not my wheelhouse. I want that collective experience in the room where you feel something with individual and with the others around you. That's more
Yeah.
fun, more than technical proficiency, maybe. Like, not that there's a problem with technical proficiency, but that's not the priority of like the clean vocal that's directly on pitch or hits every note just right. It's the overall feeling of the experience that matters to me.
Right. And kind of how we were talking about supertones earlier before we got started. I think that for me, when you talk about the big three, supertones for me was always number three because it was so produced, you know, especially as their albums went on, because they had the bigger budgets and things like that. It was just overproduced. And I always prefer the more like the raw, you know, the energy and stuff that you would feel from, you know, like a Five Iron or the Insiders. Like
Hmm.
I always liked that better.
I think that 90-pound wuss record over your shoulder kind of tells on you in that respect.
Yeah, probably a little bit, huh? Yeah, he's another one that like I absolutely love 90 Pound Wuss. And vocally, you know, like you were talking about, like vocally, he's not for everybody. But it's just when you listen to some of the stuff that when he's singing, it's like you can feel the emotion that's being poured into it.
My family really dislikes when I listen to Me Without You.
Oh,
And
yeah, I can see that too. Yeah.
because of the same reasons, like it's
Yep.
Aaron screams slash singing,
Yeah.
and it's not really about being a great singer. And I sit there and listen to it, I'm like, how are you not completely caught up? Like, how are you not
Right,
fully
right. Yeah.
moved by what is happening right now? I don't even hear the whatever it is that you're looking for that's not even
Yeah.
present for me. Because yeah, I put in my little thing on the diabolical discussion page with my top three bands. Like Me Without You is there because
Yep.
of that
Hmm.
thing, whatever that thing is. They really embody it. And then I feel like they're a band like what you're describing with MuteMath, who haven't experienced, but the intensity of the whole package. There's like Aaron is the vocalist up front and center, but the whole band supports that at the same level. Like every member is contributing, and so you get in the room with that, and you're like, oh, you're like overpowered by the collective presentation of what they're doing as a group, and then they're inviting you in, and you get to be a part of it, and it's awesome,
Kind of like a
They were
ska band.
just like a ska band.
they were another favorite at the same time that I was really into Mute Math. Like I'm still into Mute Math, but like when I was listening to Mute Math endlessly, I was listening to a lot of Me Without You also.
So do we want to do an episode recap or do we want to skip it? I'm okay either way.
I'm interested in. We've had no shortage of drinking talk on this show, but I am curious, given that they did a deep dive on the bonus, the Patreon supporters.
What are your thoughts, Brock?
Oh man, alcohol. It feels so good until it doesn't. It's definitely it's
Well,
something
shut
that
down the podcast. You nailed it.
right.
There it is, guys. Roll the
We can all go home now.
Another
pizza.
perfect podcast.
Crushed it.
We can. I don't know. I think. I think they all kind of brought up a bunch of great points in terms of kind of the experience, what it's there for, what it's good for. I know it's not for everybody. Obviously, it's probably the same disclaimer I think they made. If it's not your thing, don't do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I was interested in the way that it was explained, kind of coming from a teetotaling background, and being raised where it's really not the thing that we do. Even if you might have like family history or something along those lines, maybe because you have family history, it's not a thing that we did. Um, I was raised with basically not ever having it around. It wasn't something my parents didn't drink, my grandparents didn't drink. I remember one time at a family reunion, I saw my dad's dad drinking a Coors Light, and I was really concerned that he was, "Are you going to be okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll be fine." But I didn't have the context for it. It was kind of the description of like, well, was it Joe that said if you have like one drink, you're expecting just to be wasted, to be trashed, and the fact is that's not usually for most people what happens, especially if it's a Coors Light. So I didn't have a lot of context for it. I didn't have a lot of information. But as a young man, I remember having my first beer being like a big deal. I'm 21, I get to have a beer, and I lived in Portland, Oregon, and so it was like beer city even at that time, back in the early 2000s. So definitely something that you would do with friends, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I remember, at one point, you guys remember Four Loco. Four Loco was like
The OG Four Loco,
yeah, absolutely, the one with
the loaded
caffeine
stuff.
and booze, right?
Yeah.
And so
The gateway
there was,
drug.
yeah, well, yes,
Or just death in
because
a can.
I don't know. There were only a couple of times before I had a Four Loco. There were only a couple of times I had felt that way.
Gateway to the
And
afterlife. Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yes.
cheaper, more
If you'd
accessible.
like
It
to
was
see
just down
Carmen
the road.
sooner.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, it was that was something that I had, and I remember like for me, beer or liquor, I wasn't much of a wine guy, but like it was always a thing to do with friends, and I was always a thing to do primarily with other people, as either celebratory or like we're gonna take some time and mellow out together, gonna have good conversations, we're gonna go to the horse press just like Donald Miller did, those things. And to me, I think that it was about the time that I started deciding to reevaluate my relationship to the faith I was raised with. And we were living in an intentional community. And I was trying to sort out both my own developing agnosticism as well as what to do with 14 people who want to start an intentional community. And so, all of those things were difficult. And at that point, it was easier sometimes to drink a Four Loco or two and just kind of forget about the difficult thoughts than it was to sit in that space and wrestle with those things. So I don't think that's good. I know sometimes people turn to various things, and for me at that time, I don't think it was ever a problem in the sense that like, I couldn't do the things I was supposed to do. Most of my life as an adult, I've been a commercial driver. And so there are very strict regulations around what you can do. But yeah, you can do what you wanted to in your off time. And so I think at that time, sometimes the alcohol was there to mask the struggle. And I remember it took years for me to recognize that and kind of reclaim a relationship that, that wasn't about running from something. And so, yeah, that's a short nutshell sort of version of me with it. Anybody else have similar experiences?
Before anyone says anything, I just want to remember, I really want to revisit the intentional community because I'm so curious, but I don't want to derail
Oh yeah,
this trajectory we're on.
Pete, write it down.
But yeah, Pete, can you write that down?
Got it. Already written.
And very seriously, I don't want to do it now because we have a topic, but I'm very curious to ask questions, and that's all. I'll just leave it there.
Perfect. Got it. Done. Continue.
Yeah. So whoever's next, not me.
I can relate to that. My dad was a first generation Christian who came from a really extreme background. So he cut out alcohol completely, but he was Italian, grew up Roman Catholic. So my grandfather made wine, but they kept it away from us. So I never really saw anyone drinking. And so I didn't want to drink when I turned 21. I didn't have an interest in it. And it wasn't until I got into an interesting place myself where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life and what I believe. And I like these girls and they drink beer. So I'm going to try drinking.
It's always the girls.
Yeah. And then I developed a taste for beer, but I went through a period of loss and there was this cheap like Asian noodles place that like I would play with. Like they would host like these they're almost like open mic nights, but they were for like musicians to jam, and they would have really cheap beer there. So like on the nights that they didn't have the jam sessions, like I would go and get myself like 2 pitchers and just like get wasted
2 pitchers for yourself.
for myself without a glass.
Hey,
Impressive.
we're big
Don't
dudes,
need that
man.
glass.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, don't bring me the glass. Yeah.
Size does matter here. I think we should point that out. That
Yeah.
when you're of a certain full volume, the
A certain
difference in
absorption.
alcohol
Yeah.
you can consume without being in a place that other people get to quicker is different,
It's true. I was a much skinnier man at the time, but
for better, for worse.
yeah. But I was very lucky in that at the time I well, I had been living with my brother. I was almost homeless for a period because of stupid relationship things. I like tried to move to Rhode Island for a girl, and I was like, this is a bad idea.
Don't call Pete a girl.
This was before I lived in Rhode Island.
Unless he wants to be, that's fine.
So my brother was spending his rent money on booze, and I was living with him and like giving him money towards rent to sleep on his studio floor. And the electric got shut off because he was drinking his electric bill money away. So I had just gotten a couch from my parents' house because my dad had just passed away, and someone like helped me carry the couch like up the stairs, but not into the apartment. And it was like starting to get dark. It was like right at that time, like in the fall, where it was getting dark earlier, and I didn't know the power had been shut off. So I'm trying to get this couch into this door frame for like an hour by myself. And I'm like, why can't, like, I'm a big dude. I can lift heavy things by myself. I can't get this couch to this door.
Yikes.
So I contacted some buddies and I was like, do you guys got flashlights or something? And they came over and we realized that the couch was actually too big because the door frame wasn't up to code or something. So to this day, that couch is probably still in that apartment hallway.
Just in the hallway.
For all the
But my
friends
buddies were like,
around.
you're coming to live with us. And I'm like, that sounds like a better deal in this place. So let's go. And thankfully they were there in that time when I was like drinking a lot and trying to forget what was going on, because I probably would have kept doing it for a while. And now I just like the taste of beer and whiskey. So
Right.
Right with
But
you.
it sounds like you came around as well. You found a way to enjoy it when it's good without having it a lot when it's
Yeah.
bad. And that seems to be the needle to thread for most people.
yeah.
I find that interesting about the discussions on the discussion page of like, it seems to be a thread of people who didn't drink until they were of legal age, which is a rarity, I feel like, in the United States. Like to know
Yeah.
this, to come across this many people who did not drink underage. Like I didn't.
Yeah. I waited until I
I
was 21. That's what
I
was
was-
right and proper.
Well, I was 22 and I wasn't going to. And then Tammy, my now wife, girlfriend at the time, wanted to have a drink when she turned 21. And I was
She seduced you.
furious. Oh, I
Yeah.
was furious. I was so mad.
She said, I have an apple. Would you care to take a bite?
Yeah, and I said, no. Why do you want the apple in the first place? What's
Boy,
wrong
you
with
must be crazy.
Exactly. So I grew up Southern Baptist in the South, and my dad was a deacon who eventually retired from the Air Force, went in full-time ministry to become a pastor. But when we were in the air, when he was still in the Air Force, my dad was a deacon. He used to preach. Like I remember going to nursing homes, like, and he would fill pulpits, different churches. So I was a real little kid, and we would go around and he would preach, and I would go with, we'd go with him, or I would, or family. And so just in Southern culture, especially back in the 80s, alcohol in the Southern Baptist world was just a big giant no. Like it was understood across the board. You didn't do it. And my dad didn't. And my dad is from Wisconsin. They live there now. So like alcohol was very present. And from what I understand, when he was early in the Air Force, drank a lot, all of those things, and then became a Christian and stopped like completely. My mom grew up, my grandparents, who were married over 50 years is the way I knew them. But I learned as an adult, had gotten divorced at some point, remarried other people, and had gotten remarried well before I was born. And I never knew that through my childhood. I thought we had a perfect nuclear family, and then I found that out. And it was fine, but in that intermediate period, there were new spouses, and there was some alcohol use and abuse, and then physical abuse and things like that. So my mom just doesn't like it from her, whatever she experienced, which I don't really know the details of. And so she's just against it. And then that was also part of when my grandparents got remarried, and kind of like I've heard some stories of my grandparents when they were young, and especially my grandfather. He was a commando in the Air Force, like stationed in Greece for a while without the family, and he like would live off of his poker winnings and send his paycheck home, kind of thing, and drink and whatever in the NCO club. He was a man's man. He's a Texan. He's 6'4", big, loud, like everything you think of a Texan. That's my grandfather. He's passed away several years ago, but as like a child, like my idol. But when I knew them, like no one would drink it. My family on my mom's side, like it was just appalling. Like we didn't do it. So I grew up very judgmental of those who drink and assumed they were bad people. Like if you drank alcohol, you were a bad person, just like part and parcel.
And we are, morally, to be honest, we are.
Fair enough. And so I had no interest, like, and I was fine with it. I wasn't rebellious in like those, like my rebellion was Five Iron Frenzy and the Insiders, right? 90 Pound was MXPX, like the safe rebellion who still wrote Christian lyrics, but they sang like heavy music or hard stuff that my mom didn't like. But I wasn't pushing to go outside of like those bounds of Christianity. So I wasn't trying to drink, and I had never done it. My brother hadn't, my sister hadn't, like none of us. We weren't like, no one challenged any of that. And then Tammy wanted to drink when she turned 21, and I was so mad at her. And it was one of those defiant, like, well, if you're going to, I will. And hated it. And so drank a little bit. And my friends, like here, I went to a Baptist college. I worked at a Baptist affiliated college, not the same way that it was then, but it wasn't a big thing among my immediate friend group. They drank, but it wasn't like, they weren't partiers. It wasn't like college drinking. They weren't against it, but it wasn't a priority. So it wasn't really around me. And so my last year in college, drank a little bit. Like I remember trying cider and being like, okay, I can drink that. Like, whatever. And then trying some liquors and like, okay. And same thing, like Malibu rum, like, okay, I can drink that. Don't hate it. And then I went to college at the University of Florida in Gainesville, and eventually like alcohol just rules everything there. It's everywhere. It's cheap. It's plentiful. And I became friends with non-Christians probably for the very first time. And I don't know what I was, 23, 24. And it was the very first time I made close friends, and my social group was not like conservative evangelical Christians like me. And they drink. And they drink a lot. And they were Canadian, and they were from the West, and they didn't have any of these hangups. And so I just started drinking. Like,
Let's leave today.
In the SEC. Yeah.
Oh,
like
sure, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And then like the Grog House is still there in Gainesville, and that's like Ryan Lochte's favorite place. And to date myself, we all know of the Girls Gone Wild era of debauchery. When they came to Gainesville, they went to the Grog House to find their clientele to film. So it was like that kind of college bar. But I remember going to the Grog House, and on Friday nights they had Beat the Clock, which pitchers started at a quarter at 9 o'clock, and every 15 minutes went up a quarter until full price by midnight or whatever, when you were good and slosh. So like I went there a few times. It wasn't my scene. Still wasn't a partier, but like you would buy a round of pitchers for the table. So if there's 6 of you together, you would just buy 6 pitchers at once and spend your $1.50.
Yeah.
And cover the group, but everybody would get a pitcher, like, because it was cheap. And so, yeah, it was just like alcohol. Everything was around alcohol, and so I started drinking there. And it was like, but what I experienced there, like there was an Irish pub. And so I did my fair share of like unhealthy drinking in that period of time, which was not good. And I used to tell those stories, but honestly, I'm embarrassed now of some things that I did then. They're not as fun to me or interesting as they were years ago. Some silly things. I used to tell a story about getting very drunk off free beer at SeaWorld, which no longer makes me laugh in the same way. I'll tell it maybe one time.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, so I can tell you about getting when Anheuser-Busch still owns SeaWorld, and you can drink free beer in the
those days, yes. Oh my god.
When a mime has impersonated you stumbling to the Shamu show. You've reached a new low or high. I don't know which direction that goes.
I'm writing that down for the after hours. Got it?
Yeah, I woke up in an apartment. I didn't know where I was the next day. It was
Got
in
it.
Orlando, a long way from Gainesville. So I did my thing. And
Sure,
I don't
sure.
have fond memories of waking up. I can't tell you how many times I went to church with a raging headache and just a monster hangover because I was still going to get up and go to church because I felt guilty.
That's right.
No matter what I did on Friday and Saturday night, I was going to get up and go to church. But it was a confusing time because I was still going to church on Sunday, and I mean, I still am. I haven't stopped, but I didn't used to go out on Saturday night before church and drink a bunch, and wake up with a hangover and be like, "My God, I wish I was in bed right now, but I gotta go to church." But what I did experience there was like there was an Irish pub downtown, that I loved, and they would have a band on the weekends, and then we had a routine of the craft beer bar, which I developed a taste for beer on Friday nights, and they're one of those you drink 100 beers in a year, you get your name on the wall, which is how I explored craft beer because like after like 3 weekends in a row there, I was like, I might as well get a list going and get my name on the wall if we're gonna keep being here.
I can do this.
Yeah, I was like, so I drank 100 beers in a year, and I learned a lot about different beer, and I found a fondness for it. But the Irish pub across Dirty Nelly's, as it was called, across the way, it was a block or over, would have an Irish band on like Saturday nights, like penny whistle, guitar, and like legit middle-aged Irish dudes singing tunes,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
could sing Seven Drunken Nights with them, and like Molly Malone and all these. And what I found there was like the pictures were flowing, but there was like it felt like church in the same way of fellowship of like youth group of friendship and like we're having the drinking wasn't the point. It was part of what we were doing, but it was we were singing songs and we were together. Everyone was welcome. Like anybody who wanted to pull up to your table was like, yeah, why not have another to have this social and I learned that people who drink weren't evil people because all of a sudden I was there and I enjoyed it.
It's that
It
true
was like
conviviality, like
yeah, it was like it was hospitable, it was generous, it was welcoming, and I was like, huh, people who drink alcohol are supposed to be mean, spiteful, angry, and evil, and here we are doing things that don't seem wrong in singing songs together. Not Christian. Like I'm not trying to compare it to church in the sense of like, oh, it was spiritually meaningful. I'm just saying like
sure.
it was
But there are
welcoming.
some parallels, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It was community and it was friendship and it was generosity and it was kind. And then I mean, I had my other nights in Gainesville, but something changed for me of like, oh, like I don't think it's wrong to have a pint and sing a song with your arm around a buddy where everyone is happy to be there and you're pleased to see other people.
Right.
Like that's a good thing.
Well,
That's the sort of thing we encourage. You don't have to drink coffee to do this. You can drink Guinness. It's fine.
right. And the
that's-
fact is, I came from a Wesleyan tradition, right? And John and Charles Wesley, all
Yeah.
those great hymns are old drinking songs or old bar songs.
Yeah. They
they're-
repurposed, right?
Exactly. So the parallels are there.
Same with the Salvation Army, right? A lot of
Yeah.
drinking songs repurposed for other means.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because the craft beer community and like all these craft breweries that are popping up all over the place, they're all family friendly places. So it's
Yeah.
like even when my kids were little, we'd be going and hanging out at the brewery, and it was no big deal that the kids were there.
Well, so that was part of my experience too, is going to that craft beer bar and their menu is organized by country. I didn't know anything about craft beer bar. And it's like on one side of it, this like big sheet that was like a rectangle. One side was the United States and it was split by state. And I was like, that's too overwhelming. I don't know how to sort these like 200 options. So I
Right.
flipped it over and then it was by country and the rest of the world. And so I was like, Scotland has 9 beers. I'm going to drink Scotland over the next 3 weeks. Like 3 Friday nights, I'm going to tackle Scotland. And like Belgium was too intimidating because it was too large of a list. But I started like tackling countries and like, okay, there's 9 here. France has 2. And I still have a terrible memory associated with their Beelzebub, whatever beer. It's awful. But Scotland was
For
like,
me, for me, for me.
for me.
There you go. Continue. Mhm.
But Scotland was these 9 beers, and like Scottish beers are maltier. Like it was Old Engine Oil, it was Skull Splitter, it was like
Right.
the Orkney Ale,
Yep.
it was the Frock Heather Ale. Like these are relatively approachable craft beer because they're sweeter, like that malty goodness. There's little chocolate undertones and like roastiness, like easier to drink. I didn't like IPAs back then. And I was intimidated. So I was like, oh, I'll drink Scotland. I was like, oh, this is good. And then like eventually found my way to like Belgian brown ales and things like that. But when I developed an appreciation, so I started going to breweries, and that was the thing I learned is like this was back then. Breweries were in industrial parks; they weren't in cool areas downtown. There weren't patios, so it was like very nerdy people there for the flavor. It wasn't a drunken culture. It wasn't a pounding beers to get drunk kind of thing, buying a bucket. It was like, oh, we're here for the like we care about what this tastes like, the quality of the ingredients. We want to talk to the brewer about the process. It was just nerd culture. It just happened to be the topic was alcohol, and I was like, oh, this is not what I was told it was about all these years when it was evil. So yeah,
Right.
that actually helped me with like that whole transition was like this is not what I was always told of just people slamming booze to get drunk, which I still don't like. I'm not a fan of. I think as people have commented, both Joe and Reese said, and then like it's been on the discussion page. I think entering as an adult, I don't enjoy the experience of being drunk. I don't like when my head starts spinning. I don't like the headache. I like to be in control of myself, but I like the flavor.
There is something to be said about when people drink a little bit, they lose a bit of their inhibition. And so it was surprising to me once I kind of exited Christianity and I was trying to find my way in the world. I had a lot of really fascinating conversations with people about meaningful things, deep things after we'd been drinking. Sometimes there were people I knew,
100%.
sometimes there were strangers who were there until 2, like I was, or something along those lines. But it was interesting to me that it opened a space. And I think that is the thing, because like it's a razor walk, right? You can fall off both ways, where either you don't participate at all and you miss some opportunities, maybe, or you fall off the other way where you have too much and then the conversations are meaningless. Because I've had those conversations too.
Yeah, I agree. Like we'll reset it. There's nothing wrong with a little social lubricant. It's fine. There's a difference between sloppy and like open. And
there's nothing wrong with drinking with Reese Roper in a parking lot either.
Oh, there is nothing wrong with that.
it's always the
Even
right
if it's
choice.
hot whiskey.
The hot, honestly, with Reese Roper, the hotter the better.
It's going to be hot one way or another.
Growl.
Is this whiskey hot or is it just you?
Hey, am I gay?
The thing I don't love about alcohol now as I get older is my metabolism has slowed down. And
Yeah.
I've lost. You guys didn't meet me last year. You met me Kevin met me last year.
Yeah.
But I've lost 50 pounds since my first Furnace Fest. Trying to
Congrats.
lose another like 90
Yeah,
pounds.
well
Thank
done.
you. But it's like it sucks because I do like enjoying, a knuckle of bourbon. I mostly cut it out for that time period, like, and then this summer I fell off, and it's like there's just little things that I can have to push me over like my calorie limit without having to do more exercise I don't have time for, and it sucks. I miss like being 18, being able to eat a large pizza and not gain weight.
Right.
Like
Yes.
Me too. An entire large pizza all by oneself, as I've done many times
Yep.
with an IPA.
Oh,
Um, One thing that's good to note, I think, is that there are good reasons to take breaks. And I've told you guys probably that I did all of 2020 without drinking a drop of liquor.
That's
of alcohol
amazing,
of any
'cause
kind.
I drank so much in 2020.
It was
That's when I
not a
started
great year
drinking.
for
We
it.
all made
It
up
was
for it.
not a great year.
That's the year I started drinking. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Wow. That's the most impressive
Yeah.
thing I've ever heard, I think, honestly.
And I'm considering 2025, and not for any particular reason other than I'm thinking about my own health and kind of my goals and that sort of thing. And I think if I can lay off the drink for the better part of a year, I'm probably going to have a better chance at doing what I want to do and being where I want to be. And so I'm considering that. I haven't decided yet, but if you guys want to join me, you can. You probably don't.
I'm gonna
I
sit
might
that
be
one
down
out.
for that.
Josh is
But,
with you. Josh is in. So in.
Yeah.
Josh is in. I can't. No. But maybe.
No worries. No
For those
worries.
reasons,
No.
I'm out.
Does
But
anyone
that's-
remember? Does anyone remember Greg from Dillinger before he was in Better Lovers? Like when he was jacked. Like that's what I want to look like the end of next year.
Oh,
But I don't know if I have that kind of time and commitment. That's just
so
I don't know why I picked him. I just like my sister was talking about lifting weights and like I just saw how he lost a lot of his tone because he like probably doesn't have the time to keep up that level of intensity.
Well, I will say, I get angry when I've done the whole I'll go a month without drinking, and then the scale doesn't move. I get so pissed off. I'm like, I
Right.
didn't drink any beer or bourbon for a month, and I weigh the same amount of money. That is the worst, or well, same amount of money, the same amount of weight. I was like, that is the worst decision I've ever made because if it doesn't have a demonstrable impact on my overall aesthetic, because I know what I gave up, it better be contributing to something. And that frustrates me as an adult. I'm like, it doesn't make sense mathematically to me. Like, I know how many calories are in alcohol. If I set those calories aside, I should see a result. And then when I don't, it makes me mad. So I'm Team Reese. I've tried not drinking and I didn't feel better.
2025, I'm going to drink a mile. Is that how
Yeah,
that
that's
a
a
works?
mile a
volume of
day.
measurement.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
It's one half Adirondack chair.
Oh, thank you, because I was about to Google it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm gonna have to jump off here. All right.
All right.
I
True
gotta
podcast
make
begins.
sure I pull my weight around the kid stuff. I
Well,
want to hear the rest of this conversation because I feel like you guys have more on the topic.
well, please.
Brock, always good to see you.
It'll be in
This
the
will
Always.
probably be another 2-part episode. I'm guessing.
That's all we do now.
Sounds
if-
great.
Yeah.
If you could give us the sign off before
yeah.
you go. I mean, we're going to continue talking, of course, but if you
Sure.
give us that sign off, that'd be great.
Don't let the people know we
that's-
don't do this in consecutive order. Hold
Oh,
on.
no. He came back for the sign off, people.
Pull the curtain
Right,
back.
right.
No, magic of editing. Kevin will take this part out, but you at home, Brock
I'll be back
came
at 10. Yeah.
Brock came
Yeah.
back because we texted him and said it's time to sign off. He's like, I'm coming
That's
back.
right. I'm in.
Kids are in bed. I'm back.
And that's the news from Lake Scabagon, where all the stouts are very thick and heavy. All the IPAs punch you in the back of the throat, and all of the wheat beers are above average.
Oh, onward,
Like
pickle soldier.
Scabagon is heaven.
Mm. Is this Iowa? No, it's Lake Scabagon.
Watch
It's
out for the
even
corn
better
sweat.
Better than Des Moines, believe it or not.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.
Take
All
care,
right, see you
Brock.
later.
Good to see you, Brock.
Oh, now right. Now
Love
that
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 guy.
guy's gone.
Let's talk shit about
All
Brock.
right.
What really went down in that hotel
What
room,
an
Josh? Don't
ass.
hold back.
Bow, 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 no.